On your right is Connor Mackenzie playing Rakdos Transmogrify. On your left, it is Quinn Tonole playing Selesnya Company. And these players are wasting no time getting things started. It looks like it's going to be a Llanowar Elves to start our day, Patrick.
One of the key parts of playing any Selesnya Collected Company strategy, playing ahead of schedule, making sure that you can play your 3s on 2 because your deck's likely to be saturated with a lot of 3-mana cards once you're playing with Collected Company.
Torch the Tower will take care of the early mana accelerant. And we're going to head back Quinn's way. Remember, this tournament, 9 rounds yesterday, 6 more today before I cut to the elimination rounds. Things ended late-ish last night. I'd say around maybe 9:30 East Coast time. That sound right to you?
Well, it depends how long you were sticking around. For those of us sweating the matches in the 5-3 bracket, maybe a little bit later.
Okay.
But it was a full day of Magic.
Yeah, it very much was a full day of Magic, and now we have an early morning of Magic. So for players who have not played in a lot of tournaments that look like this, obviously you and I have from our playing days over the last handful of decades, but not everyone has played in very long tournaments like this, where it's a long day one with over 1,800 people, 9 extremely long rounds of Magic, go to sleep, wake up early, have to play again. It can be both physically and mentally taxing, so it will be curious to see how players are able to handle something like this that have never done it before.
It is a slog.
Yes.
And, you know, whether or not you deem Magic a sport, that kind of depends on how you're defining sport. But it is absolutely a mental drain as the tournament goes on.
Another copy of Torch the Tower resolves to take care of Athalia. Now there's just another Llanowar Elves here for Quinn before passing the turn back. So both of these players are a little slow out of the gate, but Connor is keeping control of things and has now played one of the best cards in the format in Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Once you play this card on a relatively stable battlefield, which is what we're seeing right now with Tonole missing a land drop, a lot of pressure on Quinn to get to 4 mana and collect a company as soon as possible. Time is not on Quinn's side at this point.
There's Naganjo, Seat of the Empire, is the land for the turn here for Quinn. So after missing a couple of land drops, it could be perhaps collected company time. And there's a Llanowar Elves, and now this is an Archon of Emeria. So the 2/3 flyer is on the battlefield, and Fable and the Mirror Breaker is going to go up to chapter number 2. So Connor's drawn his card for the turn. Now it may be time to do a little bit of discarding before drawing a few more cards. It looks like one card will go away, which means one card now is here to stay. Now there is a Transmogrify. So see you later. Goblin Shaman, say hello to Atraxa.
Good stuff.
Eventually, the Phyrexian Angel will hit the battlefield, and there will, of course, be a trigger for Connor to take a look at the top 10 cards and ideally take some of them with him. And I had a feeling Quinn was going to concede because they're we have the pleasure of the deck list, and believe it or not, Voice of Resurgence not good enough, among other things in Selesnya, to stop Atraxa.
Little too big for Skyclave Apparition.
Just a little too much. So Connor Mackenzie is going to win game number 1 here over Quinn Tonole. Rakdos Transmogrify very quickly up a game over Selesnya Company. So we're going to turn our attentions now to the sideboard, and we are going to start with Quinn, our player on the left, who has 3 copies of Brutal Cathar, 3 Portable Hole, 2 Elite Spellbinder, 2 Gideon Ally of Zendikar, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, 2 Werefox Bodyguard, and an additional copy of Anointed Peacekeeper.
There's a lot of cards here that are, you know, fine, justifiable, but not good against the majority of Connor's cards. I would certainly bring in the Elite Spellbinders as a way of particularly targeting Transmogrify. but there's a lot of expensive cards in this deck in general. Past that, it's sort of suited to taste. It's any sort of mid-rangey matchup you can justify getting an Alexander card. There are some brutal Cathar targets. You know, it depends on how much you really want to cut, but I would certainly start with Elite Spellbinder.
Other side of things here for Connor Mackenzie on Rakdos Transmogrify. It's 2 Duress, 2 Go Blank, 2 Hudetskuk, consumes all, 2 Licensed Hearst as well, along with 2 copies of Erebras Forge, and 5 one-ofs, an Abrade, Dampening Sphere, Extinction Event, Ob Nixilis the Adversary, and the Elemental Elk in Giganta.
I'm not interested in a ton here beyond the Extinction Event.
No.
Not really.
No. Any particular reason why?
I mean, it's anti-graveyard cards, it's anti-spell cards, it's, you know, matchups where you need a battlefield presence of some sort in Omnixilis and Erebras Forge. I think in this matchup, Connor's fundamentals are really the best thing going on here.
Well, then it appears maybe not a lot of sideboarding will take place for our Rakdos Transmogrify player. We'll see as these players do shuffle up here for game number 2. Quinn will be on the play in our second game. Selesnya Company, Rakdos Transmogrify coming at you here in just a moment. But before we get there, we have to turn our attention to the Magic Spotlight Series, a brand new open tournament series which is going to be spotlighting Magic Foundations.
Folks, we are back. Coming in 2025 is the Spotlight Series, and the first one is going to be in Atlanta, January 3rd through 5th. At SCG Con Atlanta, run by Star City Games. It is an open standard tournament. Just show up with a deck and you're good to go. $50,000 in prizes along with Pro Tour invites. And maybe the most exciting part, it is highlighting Foundations, a set coming down the pipeline in November that is standard legal for 5 years. You can find more information over at starcitygames.com/SCGCon. And if you can make it, it will be covered on a variety of streaming services, including Twitch, over at the Star City Games channel.
Magic Foundations. A new set coming out on November 5th. Another preview season probably in front of us here very, very soon. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what this set is going to bring Magic. It is it's not, I don't want to call it a gamble or a risky thing. It's just a different thing.
It is.
That's all.
I would describe it as a big bet.
Yeah.
When you're saying 5 years, that's no longer an experiment. You kind of have to stand beside your work. But I think there's really good principles going on for why you would want to do something like that.
I would agree. I would agree. And I'm excited to see exactly what's going to happen with that set. I think they announced Llanowar Elves.
Yes.
Or Elvish Mystic, one of the two.
Yeah, I hope it's Llanowar Elves.
I think it's probably Elvish Mystic. Elvish Mystic is more generic.
I know, but Llanowar Elves means you go get the beta copies.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Llanowar Elves more iconic.
Let me tell you about my beta Llanowar Elves.
You have some?
Yeah, I do. A couple
How
years
many?
ago. More than 1, but not 4. I don't
Okay.
remember the exact number.
Okay.
I tried to sell them to a dealer maybe 5 or 6 years ago, just in the process of sorting out my collection. And it got sent back to me. 2 played. Couldn't even call it HP. That's how much love those have gotten.
That's fine. Keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
They messed up.
Yeah.
They should have taken them. Catch me if you can.
Now, there you go.
Win again.
Selesnya Company, Rakdos Transmogrify. I think a pretty difficult matchup here for Quinn. Needs to get started pretty early on getting some of these disruptive elements in play to try to stop Rakdos Transmogrify and Connor from doing his thing. Game 1 certainly didn't go according to plan, but there are some good disruptive elements here once Quinn is ahead.
Well, the real issue I think that Quinn faced there in the first game is that Connor's hand on the draw was flush with cheap removal. Usually you would assume turn 1 Elvish Mystic and then turn 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Connor's going to at least miss 1 beat somewhere. But with a couple 1-mana removal spells, Quinn missing a land drop, just no chance of disrupting anything or applying enough pressure to win the game before Atraxa came down.
And Quinn not liking that hand either, so it's going to be a very, very quick mulligan for a Selesnya Company player. But I guess in a matchup like this, Quinn is probably looking for some specific cards as well.
I think when it comes to, do you mulligan in a given matchup,
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down to what is the likelihood, if I lose, that I will have cards left in my hand at the end. That's why, people who play with, you're playing against a deck with Thoughtseize. You're usually a little bit more strict about what hands you're going to send back because that you're likely just to run out of stuff. And some of your weak 7s are better than going for a good 6. That's not the kind of matchup we have here. If Quinn loses, it's likely that he is overwhelmed by a quick Atraxa. And so who cares about 7 cards versus 6 cards? You have to have a hand with the right elements of whether it's acceleration or disruption or collected company. You need a pathway to be able to win the game quickly.
Well, Connor was able to win that first game extremely quickly. All it took was getting an Atraxa on the battlefield. We didn't even get to see the trigger to see what cards the Atraxa was going to yield. Just having the big body was more than enough.
Totally. But, you know, maybe a concrete example of what I'm talking about is my mulligan range against Rakdos midrange versus Lotus Field is very different.
Oh, sure.
Because, you know, if they're playing with Fatal Push and Thoughtseize, you kind of have to value all your cards. Everything matters. If they're going to kill you on turn 3, it doesn't really matter that much.
Now, that's a deck I'm curious to see how it's performing. Lotus Field, we didn't see that in our top 20 decks.
Not a whole lot in the top 20. In fact, 0 copies. I do know that our good friend James Gates, still James, 2 losses.
Okay. That's liberal use of good friend.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, he is a good friend and an adversary. It can be both.
It certainly is. At least in my relationship with him. Let's see if Quinn's able to find something a little better to work with. Looks like Connor is happy enough. And Quinn is going to be setting some cards back. Just one. And it looks like Connor will be having some more fun. Now, this is a matchup here. This Rakdos Transmogrify deck. Let's talk about this deck a little bit. A little bit of interaction to be able to go toe-to-toe with your opponent until you eventually do find a Transmogrify. We've seen decks like this before, Polymorph decks, other Transmogrify decks, Indomitable Creativity in Modern.
Yep.
They all kind of just look the same.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of this is just about finding the best home for Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Okay.
It's
okay.
in terms of just absolute rate, raw power level, it's up there, maybe number 1 in terms of best cards in Modern. Now, what do you do with that? That's an open-ended question. The card is so good on its own and synergizes with so much stuff that you can build a lot of different stuff. An issue that some of the mid-range decks have that play with a Fable is, yeah, you get a lot of good value and smoothing or whatever, but you can still get overwhelmed by decks that go over the top. Because at the end of the day, you have, you know, some looting and a couple tutus to show for it. And Atraxa has a habit of solving that problem.
Well, Connor is done mulliganing. Now it's just time to figure out what 2 cards are going to go on the bottom. Quinn's keeping 6. Connor will be keeping 5, and we'll be watching game number 2 here in just one moment. Likely to have 2 matches to bring to you this round here in round number 10. But for now, we're going to bring you game number 2, and it'll be an Elvish Mystic.
And all the things that I was talking about mulligan range from Quinn's side, also true from Connor's side. It's maybe a bit less obvious, but Connor is also likely to lose with stuff left over in hand. Not enough time or not able to cast it because of cards like Thalia.
Fatal Push will take care of the 1-drop, and no 2-drop here for Quinn, it appears. Just a basic planes and passing the turn back. So we're going to head back Connor's way. And it'll be a Reckoner Bankbuster. Does Quinn have a 3rd land? Had trouble with that last game. No trouble with that this game.
A good spot for Skyclave Apparition.
Yes, it would be. And it's not that. It's actually going to be Anointed Peacekeeper instead. So you see the hand there. Couple copies of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Peacekeeper looking really good right now. You do see the powerful Human Cleric on the right side of your screen. Enters the battlefield. You get to take a look at the hand. Spells your opponent's cast with the chosen name cost 2 more to cast. So you have to imagine the name there, of course, was Fable the Mirror Breaker. We're just going to see a Bankbuster activation. And now that 3/3 is also going to start to get to work on Connor's life total. Looks like a Blood Crypt going to enter the battlefield untapped. Okay, a Torch the Tower. bargain away the Bank Buster. That's going to deal 3 and exile the Peacekeeper. So a timely draw there. And now also you're going to see a Scry. Torch the Tower looking excellent in this spot.
It is painful to give up a real card rather than a token, but it just kind of doesn't matter. It's so mana efficient and unlocks your hand going forward. So even though I'm sure Connor would prefer to sacrifice something a little bit more trivial, still a great draw.
I was going to say it'd be a great time for another copy of Peacekeeper. And Quinn beat me to it. The draw step, the unknown card, is an Atraxa. So Peacekeeper is again going to lock down those Fable the Mirror Breakers, plural. It might be time to transition to a...
Is it time for a fish stew?
Ooh, could be. I was thinking maybe an elemental elk.
Moo. I would make a fish.
Okay.
Because then you can pivot and sack and draw and try to find an answer.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I suppose it's possible. My feeling here is that Jagotha is just, you have to draw an untapped land and then it has to be good enough. That's asking a lot. Versus just make a fish. And then if you draw a Transmogrify, you're actually rolled up.
That is true. There's a couple of different ways you can go in this spot because you can certainly argue that 5/5 in this spot is good enough to obviously hold the fort against the Peacekeeper.
I want to make some treasures.
Okay, well,
I want to cast the Atraxa.
All right, well.
I want to draw some cards.
It's clear to me that you want to go activating.
Put them in the fishbowl.
The Fountain Port. So I think it'll be Fountain Port time in here in just a moment.
Every time my opponent does that, starts working that card, I'm just dead. And every time my opponent casts it, got that, they're dead.
Okay, noted.
So that's like the tiebreaker for me.
Noted. That's your own personal experience.
Yes.
I've moosed some people in my day.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure. Quinn doing a little thinking here in second main phase after getting that attack in with the Peacekeeper and the Archon of Emiria. So you do see the life totals here, 20-10 in favor of Tonole.
I guess the thinking here with Jagotha is it is a path to cast Atraxa.
It is indeed.
That's a long way to go, but I think that I would assume that's the thinking.
Okay. Well, how about a second copy of Anointed Peacekeeper? We'll see if we can get confirmation on what that's naming here in just a moment from our table spotter. As we're going to have a Fountain Port activation. Well, there's your fish. You happy? You happy now?
I wish there were two.
Okay, fair enough. Can never make you happy.
I wish.
The second Anointed Peacekeeper is naming Transmogrify.
I hadn't killed that fish.
Oh, you have to pay a life for a fish token? No way.
Yeah.
Boo.
But then it draws, then you just get the card.
Uh-huh.
It's like a bank buster.
Yeah, they're practically the same thing.
Well, yeah, the fish is like the crew token. You get that on the house.
Yep. We're going to head back to Nole's way. This is what it needs to look like in order for Quinn to be able to defeat Rakdos Transmogrify. A lot different from game number 1. The interactive elements have certainly shown up, and the Peacekeepers and the Archon are going to continue to attack. There's a fish. Here's a block. Sacrifice a token, draw a card. See, you love it.
Now we're just a peeled fatal push away from now you're kind of wiggling back in.
It could happen. There's Land of War Elves. And Connor's down to 4.
Ooh, untapped land number 5. Time to cast Jagotha. Here we go.
Well, there actually is a really good card in hand.
That's just, all right.
Yeah. Oh,
no,
man. Okay.
Snap.
That's a good last card for Quinn to have because that Extinction event was going to be pretty darn good. So, Quinn Tonole is going to tie things up here against Connor Mackenzie as Selesnya Company and Rakdos Transmogrify are going to get ready here for game number 3. But I guess, now that I think of it, Extinction event?
Yeah.
We got to Boy, oh boy, okay.
Yeah, it's a hitter.
Well, I think it's all odds. Archon of Emeria, Aven Interrupter.
No. Voice of Resurgence.
Yep, there.
I keep
Yeah.
that. and not only do I keep that, any tokens I made along the way, I keep those too.
That's true. That's true. Thalia's a 2. Peacekeeper, Skyclave Apparition, Llanowar Elves, those are odds. So there's a lot of odds and not a ton of evens here. So that singleton copy of Extinction Event in the sideboard, pretty good.
Very strong in this matchup. Part of what you're hoping for with a deck like Celestia Company, even if you have exposure to something like Extinction Event, is a way to play around it is Collect a Company. I hold it for you event. Sure, it's bad for me, but then I can fire back up on your turn, untap and attack or disrupt or whatever the thing is.
Well, folks, these two players are going to shuffle up and get ready here for game number 3. Now, if you weren't able to make it to this SCG Con, where we've got so many people in the room here this week and enjoying Magic and many other games, you do have the opportunity to join us at SCG Con Columbus, in the middle of November.
Oh, yeah. A great convention for any card game enthusiast. That's November 15th through 17th. If you want to use the hashtag SCG Columbus for your social media engagement.
Join the conversation.
Find like-minded enthusiasts of card games and or social media. And if you're looking for more information about SCG Con Columbus or any of the SCG Cons, head over to StarCGames.com/SCGCon.
It's just good branding.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's what you think it would be.
Perfect web address.
Yeah.
Perfect. Really good job.
I'm warming up. Sometimes it takes me a little while to get into second gear, you know?
Priming the pump.
But I'm there now.
Got your coffee? I don't see any coffee.
I drank it.
One. Okay.
Yeah, I had it already.
Yeah, I bet you. Cappuccino?
Yes.
Ugh.
Once our more than capable colleagues enter the booth.
Yeah.
I'll be going back for number 2.
What's the appeal of a cappuccino?
The flavor.
Okay.
And the smoothness.
Okay.
And the temperature.
Okay.
And the caffeine. I guess all of it.
Is there such a thing as an iced cappuccino?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I don't
like.
You can. People do it. I don't like iced coffee drinks.
No, I knew that. I just didn't know if iced cappuccino was a play.
It happens to me at the farmer's market all the time. We go to the one over at East High School in Denver.
Yeah.
And it's most active during the summer months, and they've got people selling coffee.
Okay.
And it's like 95 degrees in the middle of summer once you get to noon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I go and get a cup of coffee from one of the stands, and they're like, iced. And I was like, no.
Yeah, no. Never.
No, extra hot.
Yeah. Extra hot on your 95-degree day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I'm in a Rutgers hoodie.
Yeah.
I'm sweating. I'm sweating buckets, not iced. If I wanted something iced, I'd go get ice.
Yeah. Sure. It's tough to push back on that. Yeah. No, they're the weirdos for asking.
Yeah.
That's what we're
exactly.
at now. Yeah. They're in the wrong. They're in the wrong.
I react to the iced question like someone just addressed me with a slur.
Yeah. Noted. Good to know.
There's no way I just heard you right.
Yeah, it's good
There's
to
no way.
Game number 3 here between Quinn Tonole and Connor Mackenzie. Gonna be coming, and then our backup match, I've been informed, will be Enigmatic Incarnation and Is It Phoenix?
Yes.
Hello.
Do you know how
Hello.
Do you know how disgusting it is when ice melts in your coffee?
No, because I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, I'll take a coffee extra water.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got, just put some in there. Take the edge off if you're feeling so inclined.
How did Mulligan sound?
Good for both players.
Absolutely.
I respect it. Don't know if, we're looking at no landers, the straightforward ones, but I think both of these players understand that they've got to find the right cards. This is not a matchup about raw card count. It's either Connor assembling something overwhelming very quickly or Quinn having the tools to stop that from happening.
Well, we've already gone over the next SCG Con coming in Columbus to close out this year. So let's talk about another SCG Con that's coming early next year in one of the great cities in the United States, the beautiful Portland, Oregon.
February 7th through 9th, that's going to have a regional championships attached to it. You're going to want to not even bother to play in that because I'm playing.
That's true.
So go find something else to do. But fortunately, there's a lot to do at all the SCG cons. That's February 7th through 9th, including a modern regional championship, hashtag SCG Portland. And again, information about all our SCG cons, including Portland, can be found over at sarcgames.com/SCGcon.
I do agree with you. For people that may be expecting us to be in the booth for that event, not happening.
Yeah.
No chance. Because my man over here, my guy, it's at least going to be an X3 finish. At least.
Yeah. I have a testing team. It's me and Ryan Overturf. We're getting the Prowess Discord going.
I like that.
It's closed.
Yeah.
It's invite. It's locked. It's invite only. And we're just going to, it'll be basically, you know the joke about how baseball fans can just say the name of a player to other baseball fans and they have a good time with it?
Yeah.
The Discord will just be Ryan and I. Just every 3 days or so, one of us will post crash through.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just be that. Lava dart.
Just a couple of prowess weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Like that a lot.
Soul Scar Mage.
So I don't like that card. Oh, what 2-drop are you going to play? Is there a 2-drop prowess creature maybe? Or are we all just Swiss Spears and Soul Scars?
I mean,
It's got to be some sort of 2-drop you want.
Slick Shot is at least worth a spin.
Yeah.
I don't know if that card's too slow for Modern or whatever, but there's no way I won't test it.
Okay.
Mutagenic Growth.
Bedlam Reveler.
Oh, Bedlam Reveler. Abbot of Carol Keep.
You're welcome. Razor Verge Thicket and Elvish Mystic are going to be met with a fatal push here from Mackenzie, as both players are on 6 cards. Next up is a Thoughtseize, and you could see that Quinn kind of knew that was coming. So, a basic Plains and Aven Interrupter. Let's see how good my my eyes in the sky are here this morning. Thalia Guardian of Thraben, hang on. Werefox Bodyguard.
That's right.
And Anointed Peacekeeper. Those are the options. We saw exactly how powerful Anointed Peacekeeper was last game. We'll see if that'll be the selection here this game. Or perhaps more interested in selecting the Thalia Guardian of Thraben with the Thoughtseize, and that is going to bite the dust, as Quinn's hand is not functional without a 3rd land right now. So Quinn will draw a card. It'll be a basic Plains and very quickly passing the turn back, so you head back over to Mackenzie. I'm going to guess Fable. Oh, yeah.
You still got it, too.
Mm-hmm. There's the Goblin Shaman. Uh-oh, no 3rd land. Going to take a look here. Will Connor.
I think that's Kellen Daring Traveler.
You are correct. I'm not the only one that's still got it. That makes 2 of us. As Connor is going to go up to Chapter 2 on the Fable, draw a card for the turn. And we'll see exactly what the Fable's going to do here, which will discard just 1 card in the Bank Booster. Oh, cool. You're dead.
Good stuff, everyone.
Yep.
But in all seriousness, respect to Connor for, some very aggressive mulligans.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't win game 2, obviously, but knew that this matchup was about doing this as fast as possible and not just sort of sitting around with lands and spells that didn't go anywhere.
Transmogrify will yield a Traxa once again. There will be a shuffling of the deck and then a revealing of 10 cards here.
Now, Quinn can theoretically play on from here with the Werefox Bodyguard in hand.
Oh.
But if Connor finds any removal spell in the top 10 or has 1 left over in hand, that's not going to be good enough.
That is more than true. More than true. It's been a brutal set of games here for Quinn, too, because Quinn has had a good hand all 3 times. After started with a Mana Accelerant, looking to go from 1 mana to 3 mana on turn 2 to start deploying those powerful 3-drops. That's in the Selesnya Company deck, but has never gotten to do that because of the early interaction and Fatal Push and Torch the Tower.
Well, that's something that, a characteristic of the Transmogrify build of Rakdos that is not shared by every single red-black deck is a lot of 1-mana removal. And the 4 Fatal Pushes and the 3 Torch the Towers. And he's needed all of it in this match to get to this point.
So the selections here off of Atraxa for Connor Mackenzie appear to be a Fable the Mirror Breaker, a Torch the Tower, perhaps. There's a bevy of lands to choose from. But it looks like those will be the weapons of choice. Though maybe Fountain Port is under consideration, but it no longer is. So, Mutavault, Torch the Tower, and Fable the Mirror Breaker will be headed to hand for our Rakdos Transmogrify player, who's in a very good spot right now.
I assume if it's Mutavault, Fountain Port's the best of the bunch over a long timeline. Mutavault's the most efficient for just casting other Transmogrify.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta attack here. Gotta attack here.
Got to is strong.
Well, you got Kellen, you know.
No.
You want to take a little look.
Okay. No, I get it.
Set up for next turn.
You know, now would be a good time for Voice of Resurgence.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Unclear if it's still in after sideboard.
Yeah.
To be fair.
I mean, Connor has instance and removal.
We agree. We agree. All right, Temple Garden. And now Archon of Emeria and passing the turn back. We're settling in.
Yeah.
Settling in is the Fable the Mirror Breaker is going to transform into reflections of Kiki Jiki. Mackenzie's going to start things off by attacking with the Atraxa. A pretty large life swing there. Mackenzie's going to head up to 23. And Tonole is going to fall down to 11. Next up is a copy of a Braid to take care of the Archon. There's a Mutavault, and now here's another Fable.
One copy of a Braid in the sideboard. It's a little bit mopey. It's not like there's artifacts to tag, but Mackenzie just willing to pay for Incinerate, which is fine. There's a lot of 3 toughest creatures over on the other side.
Looks like Quinn's just going to pass the turn back with an Aven Interrupter at the ready. Connor is going to resolve Chapter 2 here on the Fable, discarding a Black Cleave Cliffs and drawing a new card. I can kind of see the appeal of this Transmogrify deck.
Yeah.
Some powerful things going on here, including copying a Goblin Shaman with Reflections and attacking with those and an Atraxa to yield some treasure tokens.
I mean, the deck's a little bit less consistent, of course, and I think that affects your matchups against, you know, blue-white control or even stuff with Spell Pierce. But if you play this kind of matchup where your opponent's kind of just doing normal stuff and casting creatures, I think it's the best build of Rakdos against those sorts of decks.
I think it might be time for a little interruption.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chingantha time. Okay, here's the Bodyguard. See ya. Okay, so not so much.
Yeah.
Torch the Tower.
That was
Untap and draw.
that was kind of the one out. If Connor got sloppy and didn't have a removal spell, Quinn could have tagged it with the wolf and then exiled the wolf, but that didn't happen.
That ain't happening indeed.
And it also might not have been good enough anyway.
Connor Mackenzie going to win this game and match here over Quinn Tonole, 2-1. Rakdos Transmogrify is going to dispatch of Selesnya Company off of the back of Atraxa, Grand Unifier. And that means that Connor is up to 9 and fun.